Today's date is November 14th, 2019. My name is Marina Budzisz, and this is an interview with Stephen Budzisz in Jones, Oklahoma. So where were you born?
Chicago, Illinois,
When is your birthday?
February 7th, 1967.
Who is your father?
Gerald,
And your mother?
Helen.
Where did you start school?
I started school in a Catholic school in Chicago, St. Francis Borgia.
Who was your favorite teacher there?
There was a teacher, his last name was Mr. Sargent.
Mr. Sargent. What type of work did your parents do?
My dad worked for the city transportation, and my mom for a long time was a stay-at-home mom, and then she worked part-time at various places, mostly retail.
Describe your house where you lived in when you were in school.
My brother and I shared a room. Our house was a one story with a basement. So there was 3 rooms upstairs, and my parents occupied one, and my sisters occupied the other 2, and my brother and I stayed in a room down in the basement.
Was there a movie theater in your town?
Yes, so not in my town exactly. It was in a suburb called Norridge.
What was the name of the movie theater?
I don't know. I can't remember.
How often did you go to the movies?
Not often.
Do you remember any one movie you saw there?
When I was older, we saw Purple Rain.
What year did you graduate high school?
1984.
What did you do after high school?
I joined, well, for a short amount of time, a couple weeks, I tried school, and then I went into the military.
Did you have any first job? What was your first job?
My first job was delivering newspapers when I was 12 years old.
So, did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Why did you choose to go into the service branch you joined?
It was actually the first office I walked into. The Marine Corps was the first office, and I remember the office had a bunch of different branches, Army, Navy, and Air Force, but the Marine Corps office was the first one. And when I walked in, the guy said, "Hey, you looking for a challenge?" And I said, I don't know. He said, "Well, come in here," and well, that's how I got to sign up with the Marine Corps.
So, where'd you go for basic training? Or
What the heck?
Where did you go?
I never went to basic training. I went to boot camp in San Diego.
Boot camp. Where did you go to boot camp?
Everybody west of the Mississippi goes to San Diego, and everybody east of the Mississippi goes to Parris Island.
How did you travel there?
Plane.
Tell me about your boot camp.
One story was on the way there. Basically, you leave. I left from Chicago O'Hare. They basically bus you to O'Hare, and you get on a plane, and they give you this folder that you have to keep from till you get to the airport in San Diego. So everybody there was a bunch of guys that were on the same plane as me, and when we had laid over, some guys were drinking because they were already of age. But when we got to the San Diego airport, this was funny because we're in the middle of baggage claim, and it was just packed. And I remember, so funny how you can remember how clear it was that the drill instructors that were there started yelling and cussing, and I mean, and telling people to run, and people were getting knocked over. And basically, we stayed up for 48 hours straight. But when you first get there, everybody stays up that long because until you get picked up, it's.
What type of training did you have in boot camp, or what did you guys do there?
Basic training. You learn simple survival skills. Obviously, you learn marksmanship, and you do a lot of physical fitness training, and then you have to learn, like the Marine Corps has their general orders and stuff like that, and you have to learn about military law and stuff like that. So.
Did you pull kitchen patrol?
Yes, you have to pull kitchen patrol at least once. It's part of your cycle.
What'd you do in kitchen patrol?
I changed the milk out in the containers.
What is your most vivid memory from boot camp?
There's a lot. I mean, it was probably just the facility is right next to the Navy boot camp, so we would run the back side of there, and it also neighbored the airport too, so you could basically hop a fence and be on the airport. But I just remember we would be running by, and our drill instructors would be killing us, and all the Navy guys would be sitting out in back smoking and laughing at us because they had it easier than we did. And
tell me about your drill instructors.
There was there was 3 guys. There's always 3 guys, sometimes 4, but there was one skinny black guy, and he was just one of them smooth Caribbean black guys. But he was, physically fit. He could run a 5-minute mile, and most of the times the drill instructors wouldn't like carry stuff in their packs. They would put pillows, so we would have like 120 pounds in our packs, and they would have pillows in their packs. So it would make it seem like they were carrying the same load as us, and they wouldn't get tired. But this guy would actually do exactly what we did, and he was cool. His name was Wutan.
Were you ever a drill instructor?
No.
Okay. How long did the boot camp last?
13 weeks.
Where'd you go after boot camp?
Then I went to infantry training school, which was at Camp Pendleton, and from there I went to I switched my MOS to field artillery, so I went to another AIT, so I actually went back to Fort Sill.
Were you ever on a troop train?
Troop train. So never. Yes, I've been on troop trains before, but only in Europe. That's the only place I've ever been in a troop train before.
Huh. Where'd you sleep on the train?
Right. They have cars that basically just you lay out there.
What unit were you assigned to?
When?
Going into the Operation Desert Storm.
Okay, so that unit was the 6th Battalion, 27th Field Artillery. 627 is what how you would say the unit you were with.
What was your job in the unit?
I was a chief.
Tell me about going overseas.
Everybody always you always do tours going overseas, so it just depends on how you get there. And it was no different than traveling outside of the United States.
When did you leave the United States?
I left. The first time I left was in 1985. I went to Okinawa, Japan.
When did you leave for Operation Desert Storm?
That was July of 1990.
1990. What were you thinking when you were on the airplane leaving the United States?
When we were going to Desert Storm.
To Iraq, yeah.
Some of the guys have never been in combat before. I've been in combat before, so you kind of know, that obviously anytime you go into combat, something bad could happen, but that's what you kind of think of, and everybody kind of does their last bit of business on the plane over there. So wills and stuff like that.
Oh, really? Well, did you ride a will?
I had a will before I left, yeah.
Where did the airplane land?
It landed in Kuwait.
Where did you leave the United States from?
We left off from Germany.
What were you doing in Germany before?
Our unit was training over there, and we were part of a rapid deployment unit, and so we were the first ones out.
What did you do when you got there?
Sat around, played cards.
Really?
Dominoes. Yeah, so nothing. We got there probably, you know what, I'm sorry, it was probably June when we left. So we sat over there for a good month. I think, I can't remember the dates, but I believe somewhere in August they actually declared war. So we were there, a good 40, 50 days just chilling out in the desert.
Wow. Did you have any contact with the local people?
Yeah, most of them, because since we didn't have any true support, they had most of the people that worked to cook us food. They were all Kuwaiti people.
Oh, wow. What was their reaction towards Americans?
They didn't like Americans.
But they were cooking for you and helping you guys.
There were some cool dudes. There was a couple of cool young dudes there, but I would say most of the people, you could just get a sense that they were speaking bad about you in Arabic.
What is your most vivid memory from your time in the military?
I don't know. I don't think I just have one. Just a lot of friendships, people that I know.
When or where was the first place you went overseas? Where were you first deployed?
Okinawa, Japan.
What did you do there?
I was a forward observer. So what we would do is, as a forward observer, if you ever went into a place, we actually did this in Honduras. When we went there, we would go out, and if they needed artillery or airplane fire or naval gunfire, we would give them target numbers and coordinates for them to fire their weapons on.
So I know you were chief of an MLRS.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
That was cool, because it was an awesome weapon system that I worked on, the MLRS, which was the first. That was the first time that that weapon system was ever used in combat. Was in Desert Storm, and it devastated the Iraqis.
Wow. Is there one single time in the military that you can pinpoint that kind of changed you?
No, I wish there was. There was plenty of opportunities for me. No, I mean, if I were to say that the biggest change was just going into the Marine Corps, that was a huge change that obviously just changes your way of life forever. And I still have it in me today. I mean, I still go to the gym.
Mm.
I still
Waking
I still get up way early.
Get up at the crack of
I'm
dawn.
still ready to, just like, work all day if I need to and
in charge of your all-girls unit.
boss people around.
Who are some people that made an impact on you in your service?
I had a couple good friends that I had a friend. This dude's name was Mendoza. Him and I I met him when I went to boot camp in the Marine Corps. And he and I actually did an in-service transfer together to the Army together. I went to college and he went to a unit, but not that he was impactful because, I mean, I really don't keep in touch with him today, but we did a lot of cool things together. There's all sorts of people that came, that I came in front of, even people that weren't in the military that we just met along the way.
Mm.
I still think about the person we met when we were in Bosnia, and I met that missionary, the person from Red Cross there, and she probably had the most impact on me, like today, but not then, because I couldn't see what she was doing, because I couldn't believe that she was just over there doing stuff just because.
What was she doing?
So she was part of this Red Cross team that was going to. We were part of a UN peacekeeping force, so they were the food and medical delivery. And what would normally happen is they would come up, and most of the time, those people are so hungry and devastated that they would like start fighting and almost kill each other, just try to get some rice or some medical attention. And then there'd be some bullies in there, and that's why we were there, is to like break up all that stuff. But she was just handing out food. She had no skills. She just volunteered to be a Red Cross member to hand out food in like the worst place imaginable.
Yeah. What was the most interesting place you were deployed to?
Thailand,
Really?
probably the most interesting, because we did a lot of jungle operations there, and you would just walk around and see like statues of Buddha sitting around, and people that would leave dough right at Buddha's feet, and we would steal Buddha's money.
Oh my God. I bet they hated you.
Lucky thing Buddha's not a god. Can
you name all the places you were deployed?
Oh no, probably not offhand. I mean, if I were to go just down the line, Okinawa, first one, and then we did a tour in the Philippines right after that, and Japan, and I finally came back to the United States and was in Camp Lejeune for a while. Obviously, they're wanting to hunt me down because some people are dying from the water out there, but. Korea again, Germany, all sorts of I've spent time with when I was in the Marine Corps on ships, so we would just dock places. Like that's how I got to Thailand, and we'd go off and do operations like that. So it wasn't like I was stationed there. We would just go there for a couple weeks and do stuff. Like I happened to go to Puerto Rico one time to do stuff. It was just weird. You can go. I always tell people you can travel all over the world.
When were you discharged?
I think 2003.
Tell me about coming home from Operation Desert Storm.
I couldn't wait to get home. It was cool. I mean, there was people like waiting at the airport. we flew back. Our unit was home based in Lawton, so we flew back into Lawton. It was cool. There was a bunch of people waiting. You know, everybody had a bunch of money in their pocket because nobody was able to spend any money for the last, 6 months that we were over there. So obviously it was a big, huge celebration.
What did you do after you were discharged from military service?
I started growing a family over here.
What did you do job-wise after you were discharged?
Oh, sorry. I worked in the first job I had. I started working in this food distribution. It was actually a freezer, and I worked there for a little while. And then I worked in a metal. I don't know. They were like a metal. They sold metal sheets of metal and stuff like that. Another warehouse job, really. I went to school, and then I started working in computers, and that's what I do today.
Would you join the military again?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Because I believe in the freedoms that this country has, and I believe in that it needs to be protected.
Do a little word association here from your time in Iraq. Okay, so I'll say a word, and you have to say like the first thing that comes to your head.
Okay.
Saddam Hussein.
Funny.
Funny? Why was he funny?
Because he left a lot of his soldiers out with no food, and that's why they ended up like half of them end up like just giving up because they had no food. Like these guys would have fought to the death, but they just needed some food and water.
Wow. Bush.
Chicken.
Chicken. Dick Cheney.
Hard nose.
The Iraqi oil spill.
I don't know. I don't have any comment on that.
You have no comment on that. They destroyed Mother Nature. Just kidding.
I don't believe that. It came from the ground. It's just going back in the ground.
It destroyed like the fish.
Yeah, I know.
Do you remember Schwarzkopf?
I actually met Gerald Schwarzkopf.
Did you?
Yeah. We were right outside these burning oil fields, and we were head to toe covered with soot from the oil. So we had just gotten a bunch of water that day, and I said, well, I want to wash the stuff off of there. So we got naked, and we're sitting in these. We had drip pans because they didn't want us to our machines to spill oil in their desert. So they were just like these rubber buckets that we had to throw in our launcher just to have with us. So we used them as kind of like bathtubs. So there's three guys in the crew, and we were all laid out and in the sun in the middle of the desert, naked in these things, and their helicopter flies over us, and we could see it turn around. And it landed 25 yards away, and this big dude gets out. You knew it was him. It was just the way he held himself. And he walked up to us and asked us what we were doing. And
were you all naked when he asked that? Oh my gosh!
Yeah, he was cool as a fan, though, man. That dude was awesome.
Cool. Except it's not cool that you got to meet him naked.
Yeah, you can imagine, he probably has told that story. It's flying over, I just see three naked dudes.
Oh, the very last question is, how do you want to be remembered?
I don't know. I'd never want to be remembered as because there's so many other people that have done so many other things in the military. I mean, for my military service, I really don't want to be remembered, Um, I'd like to see, my impact that I've made on people, not so much in the military, but outside of the military. But that's how I want to be remembered, just as someone who's made some kind of change in people.
All right, well, that wraps up the interview.
All right.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for the interview.
You're welcome. Thank you.